Well, now a new perspective on the controversial practice of fracking. Now, the unbelievable number of earthquakes in Oklahoma this year is putting geologists and oil companies against each other. Well, does fracking cause earthquakes? That's the big question. Well, our Dave Malkoff went to Oklahoma to see firsthand whether oil and gas extraction is to blame.
You've seen stories about fracking before, but have you ever seen it in action?
I didn't expect it to be this big.
It takes us about 3.5 weeks to drill this well.
These giant rigs are drilling all over states like Oklahoma.
Now, things have changed in recent years. We're drilling all these things sideways now.
That way you can find more oil and gas with one drill. Oil companies break or fracture the shale to find pay dirt down there. That's why folks call it fracking.
Okay, so my name is Chris Faulkner. I'm the CEO of Brightland Energy.
The founder of this $400 million company has seen his industry boom in the past few years.
Oh, God.
At the same time, Oklahoma itself has been booming. Literally, with earthquakes. 3.0 quakes or higher were almost non-existent before 2009. Last year, they set a record. This year, there's been 200 already, and we're only halfway through.
I think it's pretty early in the game to blame fracking or to blame the oil industry.
But a new study out of Cornell University from just last week directly links the quakes to not the fracking itself, but how oil companies get rid of all that extra water that comes up after they drill. You see, pushing that water underground, according to the study, is what could trigger an earthquake. You already know this. Fracking is a controversial issue, and it's been kind of a test to get someone to talk about this on camera. That's why we are out here at beautiful Lake Tahoe. There's a resort with a conference going on right now with geologists and seismologists. Maybe one of those guys will talk to us on camera.
There are enough irate people. I try to distance myself from that.
Dr. Austin Holland, one of Oklahoma's top seismologists, knows how touchy this all is.
What we're seeing is completely unprecedented.
Dr. Holland believes the wastewater makes fault lines so slippery
we have active faults in Oklahoma
that it causes those faults to move. People above feel that as an earthquake.
It is truly remarkable, and we certainly have cases where we've identified earthquakes being caused by oil and gas activity.
Yeah, but he hasn't said what it's caused by. Is it water injection? Is it fracking? I mean, one geologist for one state, I don't think is considered a pattern.
Back in California, we found another seismologist who studied the wastewater injection and says
that fluid can essentially lubricate the fault enough that these old faults slip a little bit.
Oklahoma is beginning to crack down on how much water goes back underground and at what pressure. As scientists study what's causing these quakes, those drills keep spinning.
The trouble these states have today, if there's a quick to pass judgment and to ban fracking or to ban drilling, all they're harming is the state for the tax revenue and the local landowners who are lucky enough to have us out here drilling on their land. Their checks dry up. And that's who loses. We still can drill on somewhere else.
You know, one positive outcome of all this, in the eyes of Oklahoma earthquake experts, that is it's helping them discover new fault lines underneath Oklahoma they never knew existed before. In Davidson, Oklahoma, Dave Malkoff, The Weather Channel.
Dave Malkoff is with us right now. Residents in Oklahoma are shaking from a dramatic increase in the number of quakes. What did we find out?
Well, we found out that it may not be the fracking itself, but something called wastewater injection.
Okay.
Let's look at those two things so we can get the difference between the two. Fracking is the process where they use water or sand or other materials under high pressure here, and they crack it open, and then eventually the oil or natural gas pours in. That is the fracking. But what the wastewater injection is when they take all that extra water that comes up with the fossil fuels and they push it down, and you can see it actually makes the earth move a little bit because it actually lubricates those fault lines.
So they have to dispose of this wastewater, and that's how they do it.
Yes, that's what they have to do, and this is what the industry and other people talk about.
Well, you know, I think we're probably looking at a combination of different factors. It is truly remarkable, and we certainly have cases where we've identified earthquakes being caused by oil and gas activity. And so it's important to document those, learn what we can to try and prevent this from happening as we move forward.
Do they exist? Certainly they do. There's no one can deny that. What's the cause of that? I think it's pretty early in the game to blame fracking or to blame the oil industry. I think that data's got to be gathered, analyzed, and determine what's going on, and if the change needs to be made, then we'll have to make that change. That comes from the regulation body at the state level. That's their job, and that's what they're doing.
not every time you inject that water down there, Sam, does it cause an earthquake. There's not a 1-to-1 ratio here. So coming up in the 9 o'clock hour, we're actually going to go out to a fracking site and talk to them on the rig right here.
All right, and we'll find out a little bit more or as much as we know about the situation coming up. All right.